And I'm with Simon Marcotte, CEO of Northern Superior Resources. SUP is the symbol on the TSX Venture. So if I use the term SUP in this conversation, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the stock symbol for the company. So welcome to Miami, Simon.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Robert. Pleasure to be here.
Very auspicious occasion here today. Gold making new all-time highs. I feel like I saw you in Beaver Creek 2 weeks ago. Gold was making all-time highs. Here you are in Miami, gold is making all-time highs. So just keep traveling and gold will keep going up.
Yeah, the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Right?
I want to ask you, before we get into the company you're a CEO of and the opportunity there to investors, I want to talk about the sector, the gold mining sector, and the M&A cycle that we're seeing right now. We've seen some transactions. Goldfields bought Osisko, sort of a natural transaction there. There's a few other deals that have happened. What's your sense for where we're at in the M&A cycle in the gold mining sector?
It has yet to start. It has yet to start. I mean, those cycles take a long time to emerge, but as long as the commodity goes higher, the higher the margins are going and the more M&A you're going to see. And something that has evolved in recent months is when a company buys another one, the company who's making the acquisition, often the share price goes up, all right? So it's a different setup. If you're a CEO of a company or a board of a company, when you start to see the market reacts positively when you make acquisitions, you're much more inclined to do it, right?
Positive feedback.
Absolutely. Having said that, there's a lot more to it. If you look at, so the junior companies have yet to move up. Right? They will play catch up to the sector and the commodity price. It's really a setup that reminds me of the oil stocks in the late 90s. The oil stocks in the late 90s were extremely cheap on an NAV basis, on a cash flow basis. And the argument back then was, well, oil is not sustainable at $12 a barrel. The argument was the world cannot function with oil above 10. So the public market wouldn't pay up for the commodity. But then oil kept going. It went to $140, right? But at some point, the equity market started to play catch up on that valuation. And then at some point, the equity market was even paying a premium to the commodity. And I think we're seeing the same setup here. I mean, we can dive into why I believe gold's going to keep going and much higher. Happy to dive into this. But back to the M&A cycle. So the large companies that are producing currently, you can't argue with cash flow. The cash flow are staggering right now. If you look at all the sectors of the economy and you look at the free cash flow yield, the gold sector by itself has the highest free cash flow yield of any other sector of the economy right now. So if you're a fund manager, it's starting to be quite tempting. And when you start to have a sector rotation, a lot of money can come into it. But those large companies are making staggering amount of money right now, and they will make even more as the price of gold keeps going higher. Yet, over the past 10 to 12 years, the majors, they depleted, I should say, about a third of their gold reserves. So you need to solve that. Otherwise, you're going to lose your multiple in public markets, right? If you don't have like a long operating life. So at the same time, the junior market, which for years now have been exploring, advancing projects, have never been this cheap. So if you look at gold equities right now, on a relative valuation to the rest of the market, like the S&P 5 and the Dow, and Rosenzweig keeps a good chart on that if you keep their research, and it shows that the gold equities haven't been this cheap since the 1950s. So if you are a big company, for a long time you haven't been making this much money, you need to replenish your reserves. The gold equity, especially for the developers, haven't been this cheap in 75 years or so. M&A is just about to go through a huge cycle. So if the market doesn't move up that valuation, then M&A will for sure, and then it trickles down. I mean, you mentioned Osisko being acquired, right? Like you mentioned, we were at Beaver Creek, and there's a lot of those investors that were into Osisko, and all of a sudden they have cash to reinvest, right? And that
and
cash
sentiment, and there's a bunch of other ones. So now there's billions of dollars of cash to be redeployed across the sector.
That's right. That's right.
So you make a good point that previously balance sheets weren't as good as they are today. Balance sheets are strengthening among the senior mining companies like Newmont, like Barrick, like Kinross, and the value of their shares has appreciated substantially in the last couple of years. So their paper is worth more. They can use their shares as currency to make acquisitions. So are we going to see more, like in your opinion, are we going to see more consolidation among the larger companies, or are they going to start to move down the food chain and acquire projects and juniors?
I think you're going to see both, right? And I think you already saw some big mergers, just like you saw in the early 2000s, right, with Falcon Bridge being acquired and that sort of thing. And I think it's the same thing now. Like the big guys, when they start getting together, it's typically a sign that the sector is about to do well. But there's no doubt in my mind that they're moving down cap to replenish their reserves. No doubt at all.
Okay, so let's talk about the company that you're a CEO of. Can you tell us a little bit about your background in the mining industry and how you became a CEO?
Sure. I mean, I come from the financial world, right? I always joke around that I have a PhD in common sense, which is often very very valuable in the junior mining sector. But I mean, I started in the mid-90s or 1997, I think, for CIBC Wood Gundy doing institutional equity sales, which became CIBC World Markets. 2006, I joined Sprott Securities, which we rebranded as Cormark Securities, which is now one of the leading, probably the leading mid-cap, small and mid-cap firm in Canada. So I was on the sell side, as we call it, until 2010. 2010, I moved to the corporate side. I've been involved in several companies, and we've been pretty good at calling the cycles as well. In recent years, we've been very successful in battery materials, for example. In lithium, our group was involved in Lithium X, which was sold to a Chinese consortium. Then restarted with the same team, Arena Minerals, at the bottom of the cycle in 2018, 2019. Sold the company to Lithium Americas at the top of the cycle in 2022, closed in early 2023. And now I don't want to hear anything else than gold at this point. This is it. People like me have been waiting for this gold cycle for what, 25 years?
I feel like I've been waiting my whole life. I think we're about the same age, probably, right? I feel like I've been waiting since the day I came out of my, mother in 1979.
Yeah. So no, and listen, those cycles can be so profitable, right? I mean, I always point out that I'm based in Toronto, and there's a lot of the commodity business is big in Toronto, obviously. There's a lot of hospitals, research centers that are named after mining entrepreneurs and executives. Mm-hmm. There's a reason for this. Is because when you hit those cycles and you're well positioned, there's an enormous amount of money to be made, mm-hmm. right? And not to say that the other side is not true. I mean, the recent years have been pretty horrific.
Feast and famine.
Right? But now, I mean, this is it to me. I mean, clearly the rubber has hit the road. The gold keeps moving higher. It's going to go a lot higher from here. M&A is on. So the happy days are here.
The happy days are here. Okay. So what is the opportunity today as you see it, and why are you the CEO of SUP?
Yeah. So Northern Superior. I mean, there's two sides of Northern Superior. We recently split the company in half, right? So Northern Superior is currently focused on Quebec and the Chibougamau Gold Camp in Quebec. But if you allow me take a minute just to talk about Ontario here for a second, because we proceeded to a spin-off transaction of our Ontario asset, especially the TPK project in Ontario. So we put that into a new company called OnGold, for Ontario Gold.
Ontario Gold.
Right? And just to clarify, this spin out, so this new company is listed. ONAU is the ticker symbol in Canada. But Northern Superior owns 72% of OnGold, right? So if OnGold is successful into making a new discovery, which I'll touch on, then obviously it'll benefit the shareholders of Northern Superior, right? So what is the TPK project? I mean, TPK project is this type of project that once you know about it, you can't forget it, right? So TPK, geographically, if you're familiar with the area, it is located between, halfway between Pickle Lake and the Ring of Fire, right? TPK is the largest gold and till anomaly in North America, and frankly, probably the world. We need to look into this. But so, what is a gold and till anomaly? The way I can, explain it is, imagine a glacier that was, carrying or pushing around a big gold deposit. So this gold deposit was scraping, the ground, leaving a trail of gold bits, right? So that gold deposit, ends up somewhere. So it's about finding the source of it, finding the rock. And this gold until anomaly is 6 kilometers by 11 kilometers. It is huge, and we know the source is within those boundaries because all of the rock around doesn't host gold. It's not the type of rock that will host gold. So the deposit is in there somewhere, and a historical drill hole that came out of it, 25 grams over 13 meters. It starts to sound like a big rock to me, right? I am not Robert, I'm not the guy who gets excited with soil samples and people walking around the woods and coming back with rocks. I'm not a geologist.
Rock chip samples.
I care about ounces, right? This is where the value is. But on this property, there's a big boulder that's famous that was found 727 gram a ton gold.
Oh yes, I remember that.
Right?
Yeah.
So there is an absolute legion of followers on that project. There could be an absolute world-class discovery.
Yeah, and the reason why people care so much is there's so much smoke, there's strong evidence that there's a big source of that gold, that what's showing up on surface, the golden till, the boulder, there's a hard rock source at depth that could be quite large.
That's right.
So that's exciting. I mean, that gets me excited because it's a potential new discovery. There's not a lot of new discoveries in the world, these days. We found a lot of what is to be found. So the potential for a new discovery, a big gold discovery in Ontario, is pretty exciting.
Yeah. So we've built to run this company a team that is second to none. And I will point out that Northern Ontario, all of Northern Ontario is the same. A lot of it comes down to social acceptability. And if you don't address investors very often underestimate the importance of social acceptability. But the fact is, if you don't have the right approach, then the market doesn't pay you the fair value for what you're doing on the ground. So we've put together a team that is absolutely second to none when it comes to social acceptability. The CEO is Mr. Kyle Stanfield. I mean, he's the guy who permitted Rainy River. He permitted Musselwhite. He has strong relationships across the board, but more importantly, he has the right approach. We really want to make OnGold an example of how the industry should work, have an inclusive approach, make sure everybody can benefit if we are to be successful. So we're quite excited about this, but now that we have this team built up, and the board is very impressive as well. The plan here is to leverage this expertise that we've gathered to go after other things in Northern Ontario. Other project that could, with the right people behind it, unlock quite a bit of value. So an exciting story. So again, Northern Superior owns 72% of this company.
So the first time I heard about the company was through Vanstar, and Vanstar was acquired last year. by a mid-tier miner in a play to, I guess, attract a bunch of assets in the same area of Canada. So tell us about the Vanstar angle of the company.
Sure. So, and to be clear, we're moving back to Northern Superior,
right?
The Quebec side of things.
Northern
right?
Superior.
I don't want anyone to be confused.
Yeah.
So Northern Superior has been focused over the past few years on consolidating the gold camp of Chibougamau. Right, which is just, the gold camp is just southwest of Chibougamau. Chibougamau is a mining town. It's all industrial. There's mining and there's a lot of lumber activities, like a lot of lumber, a lot of trees being cut. So to take you back a little bit, there was the discovery of Nelligan, which was a discovery of the year in 2019. This discovery was made by a company called Vanstar that you mentioned. And then IAMGOLD started to get interested into this, and they did an earn-in agreement leading to a joint venture agreement. And as of a few months ago when they bought it, Vanstar was a joint partner of IAMGOLD on Nelligan. IAMGOLD had 75%, Vanstar had 25%. What we've been focused on is to consolidate this whole area, because that's how we can unlock value, and I'll touch on that. But to answer your question, yes, IAMGOLD is now moving, doing a lot more things in the camp, devoting a lot more time and resources in the camp. And one of the things they did is they bought Vanstar. They paid a 74% premium to their share price. They paid about $40 per ounce for Vanstar. And clearly, IAMGOLD is seeing Chibougamau as their next step of growth, right? You're familiar with IAMGOLD. Mm-hmm. They had an amazing turnaround situation. The management there has done an unbelievable job. Yeah,
it's one of the best gold stocks of 2024. It's up 100%.
And I am a very happy shareholder.
Yeah, me too.
So it was a make or break moment for IAMGOLD. It was the ramp up and to bring the Côté mine into production in Ontario. But boy, oh boy, did they make it, right? So now the stock has been doing very well. And when they bought Vanstar, the CEO of IAMGOLD, which is Mr. Adam, wrote in the press release, right? He says, obviously we're focused on Côté, but once Côté is up and running, that'll provide us cash flow for growth opportunities in Canada. Obviously, the Chibougamau Gold Camp seems to be their next stage of development. So they bought Vanstar, and right now IAMGOLD is also drilling at Nelligan. They are also drilling at Monster Lake, which is also in that same gold camp. They said they would publish a new resource update in the coming months on Monster Lake. They are also drilling at Anik, which is a project they have that is located between their Nelligan and our Philibert project, and I'll touch on that relationship in a minute. And they also acquired recently the Lac Jaune, which means the lake with the yellow water, which is between their Monster Lake project and our Chevrier project. So they're devoting more time, more capital, more attention, because they can afford, probably financially, optically, and everything, to start devoting time to their next stage of growth.
IAMGOLD. So they're a mid-tier. Market cap, I believe, is around $2 billion. It might be a little bit above $2 billion now. Yes. I've heard rumors for 2 years now that they are a target as well. What are your thoughts? Your thoughts on that a senior could acquire them?
Oh, there's no. I don't think I would qualify that as rumor. I would just qualify that as common sense, right? It is obvious that once you have an operation this size, that gets put into production, it brings a lot of attention, right? So I don't want to add to any type of speculation, but I am a shareholder and I intend to remain a shareholder because it makes sense. Which means that, the CEO, Mr. Adam, was at a conference in Quebec City recently, a few months back. and he was discussing the Quebec assets of IAMGOLD, especially the ones that they have in Val d'Or, the Westwood mine, which is also has been turned around and now doing very well. And he did mention that he foresaw, a Quebec Inc. company could be created with the Quebec assets of IAMGOLD, right? So, I mean, this is just something he made, a comment he made publicly that's also available online. I always said, and I keep saying it, what's good for IAMGOLD is very good for us, right? In any path.
So if they get acquired for a premium, it's going to be good for you guys as well. Your valuation is most likely going to go up.
Yes, I would say this is a fair statement.
Okay.
So what we've been focused on here in the Chibougamau Gold Camp, and the reason why I think that all of these assets, one way or another, need to come together, is that if you look currently at the Chibougamau Gold Camp, there's several projects, right? I mean, we talked about Nelligan of IAMGOLD. We talked about Monster Lake of IAMGOLD, and then we have roughly everything else that have a decent amount of ounces. So we have Philibert, we have Lac Surprise, and we have Chevrier, we have Croteau as well, a bit to the north. So if you look at this camp right now, already you have about 10 million ounces of resource. This is a big number, right? I mean, you look at the big camps that have been doing well in the gold space in the recent years, Guyana, Yukon, Finland. I mean, we're just about to get into that type of size, right? I mean, Finland, where Agnico is, where Rupert is, with Orion, you've got about 12 million ounces, right? So there's not that many places where you have that. Now, one specific attribute of the Chibougamau Gold Camp, even I can't say it, of the Chibougamau Gold Camp.
It's not a French word. It's a Native American word.
Absolutely. Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So one specific attribute that makes this camp unique is that all these deposits are very, very close to one another. So if you can consolidate them into the same company or the same joint venture or the same structure, there's plenty of ways to do that. Then you can design, an operational design that will all feed the same mill. So it becomes the equivalent of having found this massive gold deposit. And now with the work that IAMGOLD is doing and the work that we're doing, you can expect that size to go from 10 to much higher than that, right? Over the next 18 to 24 months. Now, there's also a big attribute that these deposits are complementary. What I mean is that they really help one another. So Nelligan, which was a discovery of the year in 2019, as I mentioned, is currently the largest, right? So you look
5 million ounces?
Six actually,
million.
yeah,
Okay.
6 now, and I think there's another 2 million ounces that's still there. And the grade is a typical grade for a bulk mining operation, right? Same type of...
It's a pretty good grade open pit. It's like almost a gram average, right?
That's right. It's 0.86, I believe.
Okay.
Right?
It's pretty good.
So when you look at these type of bulk mining operation, the key metric that you need to look for is the payback period, right? So the cash flow of the first few years will therefore become very important for the payback period of the investment. And really, I believe that this is where we come in, because our Philibert project, which is only 9 kilometers away from Nelligan. So if you imagine a mill between Nelligan, halfway between Nelligan and Philibert, it's 4.5 kilometers of trucking distance. What is that, 3 miles? Well, the pit of Nelligan is 3 kilometers long, right? So, and then the pit of Philibert is about the same size. So it really put things in perspective.
A lot of synergy.
This deserves to be all together. But there's 2 big reasons why Philibert makes Nelligan a lot more valuable, right? Reason number 1 is the grade. So the grade of Philibert is already 25% higher than the grade of Nelligan. So for every ton that you mine and process, you get 25% more gold. So you can, if you start by mining that rock, if you start by mining Philibert, you can significantly reduce the payback period. But there's a little bit more than meets the eye here, because if you look into the resource calculation as a sensitivity table, you look at the cutoff grade, i.e. anything below that cutoff we consider waste. If you move that cutoff just a tiny bit, from 0.35 to 0.5, we lose only about 10% of the ounces, yet our grade becomes 50% higher than Nelligan.
Wow. Okay.
So if you look at it from that perspective, then Philibert can drastically lower the payback period of a combined operation, right?
Yeah.
So that is why I believe there's kind of one more step to go. And again, plenty of ways to structure this, because what we've been focused on for the past 24 months is all these deposits in this camp, this 10 million ounces. 24 months ago, it was owned by a total of 6 different companies. So nothing's going to happen in that structure, right? So you need to consolidate everything in order to treat this as one big mining operation.
And now it's just 2 companies.
Now it's just 2 companies. It's IAMGOLD and
Northern Superior.
Northern Superior.
Okay, so just to get some ballpark, you know, numbers, how many total gold ounces do you have in the camp?
So about 3.5 that we have formalized. Plus we have a project called the Lac Surprise that we have yet to formalize ounces. But it's very valuable. So we get about 3.5 of this 10, right? But our 3.5, I would argue, are more valuable because they make the camp a lot more attractive. But the Lac Surprise that we have, which again we have yet to formalize ounces, is the western extension of Nelligan itself.
Oh.
So that resource is growing towards Nelligan. Nelligan is growing towards the Lac Surprise, and you know, so to give you a sense of perspective and how important this could be, I mentioned that the 6 million ounces of Nelligan are within a pit of 3 kilometers wide. It looks like Lac Surprise could add about 1.4 kilometer of mineralization to Nelligan, right? I'm not saying we have this proportion of ounces right now, because if we want to drill more, we need to get on the claims of IAMGOLD. So right now we're letting them do the work because they're drilling Nelligan and expanding Nelligan towards us. But to me, it is the same.
It's the same deposit.
It's the same deposit, yes.
Okay, so 3.5 million ounces and growing, but let's just use that number, 3.5. So what's the current market cap of the company?
Market cap of the company is about $85 million right now.
And that's in CAD?
That's in Canadian dollars.
Canadian dollars,
yes.
okay.
And I mean, so if
you're being valued at less than $20
Correct.
per ounce?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And Vanstar transacted at $41 per ounce?
That is correct.
And are there any other comps for this area of Canada?
Absolutely. So, and just to clarify, right, if you take our market cap, you remove the value of the shares we own of OnGold, and then you look at the value per ounce, then you're absolutely right. We are at less than $20 per ounce. IAMGOLD paid $40 per ounce for Vanstar. And interestingly enough, National Bank, who recently led or underwrote an equity financing of $300 million US for IAMGOLD. It is IAMGOLD's main underwriter. They published a research note recently talking exactly about the camp of Chibougamau, and that being, you know, a big area of growth for IAMGOLD. And they're saying that now this camp is viable and is underappreciated, and they're saying that this camp should be worth about $100 an ounce, because, you know, it is the same type of valuation that you see in Val d'Or, for example, which is obviously a much more mature camp, right? So National Bank says it should be worth $100 an ounce. They paid $40 an ounce for Vanstar. We are at, call it 20. And historically, we have been adding ounces with the drill bit at about $10 an ounce, right? So very accretive work that can be done. And we just started a big drilling.
You just
campaign.
started a new drill program.
That's right.
All right, so final question, Simon. I think this has been a great first conversation about the company and the opportunity. How do you bridge that valuation gap? You know, how do you get the company shares from 20 an ounce to 40 an ounce, or maybe to 100 an ounce?
Yeah, so I mean, we then you know, obviously we're an M&A company, right? So you should expect that to continue to be our focus. But we also raised quite a bit of capital recently. It was led by Cormark Securities, so entirely institutional. We raised $8 million. And to the exception of $1 million that was taken by us, management. So just as a side note, we now own, after this financing, we now own about 25% of the shares of Northern Superior as management and insiders.
Okay, wow, that's strong.
And now we're starting to deploy this cash, right? So we're focused especially on the Philibert Project because we think this is really what adds the most value to the camp at this stage. So we should have a good, constant news flow from those results. We're in the middle of a drilling campaign for the summer and the fall. Then after Christmas, we're going to have a big winter drilling program, focused more to the west. And after that, in the spring or the summer, then it'll be time for a new resource update on Philibert. So not only Philibert has a good grade, but we're trying to make it larger. Another point I should have mentioned earlier, I said there was two main reasons why Philibert added value to Nelligan. I only talked about the grade. The second one is the metallurgy.
Oh.
So the metallurgy, the zone we have tested thus far have a very, very good recovery, 93 to 95+% recovery. So if you put all the camp together, not only you can optimize the grade, mining the higher grade first, but you can also optimize the metallurgy. You start by processing what recovers more easily. So that's how you add value to the whole camp and make it eventually turn into a mine.
Very good. Simon, thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you very much, Robert.
Cheers.
Thank you.